again, when you spend 10 days in Frankfurt, Germany with somebody, you bond. And I bonded with this guy, and I miss him. And he is NFL Network's loss in so many different ways. Now with CBS Sports, and see him also on ESPN. Jason McCourty. Good to see you again, Jason. How you doing?
I'm doing good. It's always good to see you, Rich.
I know. Listen, when you bond over waffles and smoothies by the way, nothing beats a European hotel breakfast buffet. Right, Jason? That's the greatest.
Absolutely. And then when you can eat pretzels all time of the day, it just makes for a better trip.
Yeah, because the calories don't count overseas, right? The exchange rate is actually helpful.
Exactly.
Let's just jump into the game of the week, Minnesota and Detroit. How do you see that one playing out, Jason, on Sunday night?
Obviously, for Detroit, with being so banged up defensively, they're going to have to put up 30, 40 points in this one. So the key matchup I'm looking at, everybody's talking about the Lions defense. I want to see what Brian Flores does against Jared Goff, because as great as his defense has been, Goff has been able to figure it out. When he's brought pressure, he's been able to hit his receivers, hasn't turned the ball over. I think it's like 77% completion rate. So I think that's the game within the game of how Flores attacks this. We know week in and week out that scheme can change, but he loves the blitz. He loves to bring pressure, and Goff has been able to figure that out. So as much as we love this Vikings defense, I want to see what Goff is able to do. And with those guys, the Vikings have a ton of Pro Bowlers, the 2 outside linebackers. Byron Murphy got named there. So that's the matchup that I want to see, especially with Ben Johnson calling those plays.
Yeah, man, he's gotten in his bag too, right? Stumble Ruski one week, next week that hook and ladder that hits with Jamison Williams, and I think you're right. They got to get deeper into that bag, because I guess we'll see. Can a team make the Super Bowl and win it, winning 40-30, right? Like that's basically that they have to do that.
Yeah,
right?
And the formula, they showed it against the 49ers. Come up with 2 or 3 takeaways. That can be the difference. Kirby Joseph's 2 interceptions in that game was literally the difference, because it gained them 2 extra possessions that they were able to score on. So it's not going to be the ideal way. I'm a defensive guy. I love to go out there and see guys shut other people down. But Aaron Glenn's an aggressive play caller. He's not going to change. They're going to play man-to-man. They're going to come after you, but they just don't have the guys. Anzalone being back should help with him kind of returning from injury, but they're going to have to put up those 40 points. And I will say, Ben Johnson has proven that he can do it. I don't know how deep this bag is, but he continues to go in there and keep pulling things out.
Well, give me a defense that can send the Lions home. Will we maybe see one on Sunday night? Obviously, it wouldn't send the Lions home. It would send them away. But I'm also returning to just the playoffs, who the Lions might see in the NFC. I mean, the Rams are young, haven't really done it together in the playoffs as a unit yet, but they have been on quite a roll since giving up 42 to Josh Allen. You've got the Eagles with them. You're nodding your head. Is that the defense you would choose in the NFC?
Yeah,
Jason?
That was the first one that came to my mind, just because of how deep they are from front to back. You look at the ability of Jalen Carter and how he penetrates up front, and then the way Zach Bond has played this year of just coming downhill and making play after play. But a lot of it has to do with their secondary. I think when you're as deep as they are and you have guys at every position, and look, this is an Eagles team where last year adversity hit and they kind of fell apart. And this year we just continue to see them respond. I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets tossed from the Washington Commanders game, and you got to learn your lessons. You got to be able to rebound. The next week he comes out and gets 2 interceptions, 1 for a pick 6. So I think this is the defense and how they're able to pose a threat at every level. I think for me, looking at that NFC, they would be the ones that I would choose that jump off the page for me.
Well, you and Andrew Catalon and Tiki Barber have the call of Eagles hosting the Giants. I'm just thinking you probably haven't had your broadcast meetings yet, right? Are you going to have them?
No, not yet.
Okay.
We'll meet with Philly on Saturday.
Well, because again, I'm sure first question of Sirianni, if you don't mind me suggesting, will be about his decision to sit Saquon and what did go behind that decision. Saquon did talk on Wednesday about having a conversation that Sirianni asked him point blank, do you want to do it? And clearly, I think Saquon would want to do it, but it doesn't look like he's going to get a chance to do it. Your 2 cents on that subject matter, Jason?
Yeah, as a fan of the game, I would have loved to see him go out there and attempt to set the record and work in the game. Being up in that booth, you have a game where I guess, wins and losses, it doesn't really matter. Both teams are set of where they're going to be, other than the Giants and their draft position. So that gives you something else to talk about. And then the fact that Eric Dickerson said he doesn't want him to get it. I would have loved to have been on that call where he was actually able to get it. And then the piece with Tiki Barber's on the call, all-time Giant great. When Saquon left, we see everything that transpired there with that part of it. So I think I saw what Saquon said. Like, at first, he was kind of like, man, forget about the record. Then you go home and you sleep on it, and your name is etched in the record book. For as long as Dickerson had that record, who knows the next time that somebody's going to come this close to be able to achieve it. So, yeah, personally, I would have loved to see him go out there and do it. But from a grand scheme thing, I understand it. You're trying to get healthy. And what I've said to people is, if Saquon goes for that record, that means the starting offensive line has to play. That means you're probably going to play your receivers on the outside, because that helps open up the run game, knowing that you can't leave Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown open. And then if everybody on the offense is playing, do you sit your defense? So it's a way bigger conversation than just Saquon playing and going for the record.
Jason McCourty here on the Rich Eisen Show. It's kind of wild, man. Last year when you and I, with Dan Orlovsky, were in the booth in Frankfurt, Germany for Chiefs and Dolphins, the conversation was, well, who have the Dolphins really beaten yet? And then we wound up still asking that question by the end of the year. And then the Chiefs, it was the beginning of their issues scoring in the second half. And that led to a narrative all season long of, yeah, well, are they going to ever really be able to flip the switch to repeat? And we got the answer. And it seems like, again, another season of wondering if a flip of a switch is going to happen for a three-peat. And it looks like they've already flipped it, Jason. I'm not going to lie. It looks like they're finishing up strong enough here. I would love to get your thoughts on that subject matter.
Absolutely. And it almost seems like it's not fair. You looked at him all throughout this season, and you're saying, well, it's going to be the tackle position that holds them back. There's no way they can win a Super Bowl with what they have on the outside with Wanye Morris and Suamataia. They're not going to be able to figure out that left tackle spot, Juwanta. And then they just moved their all-pro guard, Joe Tooney, over to left tackle, and he just has to block Myles Garrett and all of these Max Crosby and all of these guys, and then gets Watt and Highsmith, and he just continues to hold down the fort. And I agree with you. You get Hollywood Brown back, Jalen Watson. He's just been the cornerback on the other side. He's just been activated to come back from IR as he opens up his practice window. It seems like everything is clicking at the right time. And the more I watch the Kansas City Chiefs, the more I continue to say to myself, there's so many teams throughout this league that they find ways to lose games. We look at it every single week. Matt Eberflus is no longer in Chicago. We criticize everything that they were doing at the end of the game. Raheem Morris just lost a game where he said in retrospect, he probably should have used his timeout. And you just look at the way Kansas City wins football games. The Raiders have them beat. They fumbled a snap at the very end of the game. They block a field goal kick against the Denver Broncos. They are not going to lose the game. They're going to go out there and make the plays in crucial time. And that has a lot to say about Andy Reid and his coaching staff. They figure out ways to win. And now everything is starting to click. They're getting healthy. It's scary hours, I think, for the rest of the league, because we still haven't seen the best from that man this season. Patrick Mahomes, those signature deep throws and all of that. He continues to show up in the clutch moments, but man, Kansas City, they're looking a lot better now as the season's coming to an end.
Yeah, the next time we see 15 will be in divisional playoff weekend, and we'll have to obviously wait and see who they're going to get. In the meantime, part of the wait and seeing is that 7 seed in the AFC, and with all due respect to Denver and Miami, I would proffer to say the 6 teams that are in the tournament for the American Football Conference right now would least like to see Joe Burrow and the Bengals show up in their building. So I will ask you this. We need to see the Bengals beat the Steelers first for the Cincinnati to make it, and then they need both Denver and Miami to lose. Denver and Miami take on the Chiefs and the Jets together in the late window on Sunday. If the Bengals lose on Saturday night, the Dolphins can get in. If the Broncos lose, obviously, if the Broncos win, the entirety of my setup is totally moot. They're in. My question for you is, what do you think happens? You have to choose for me, Jason McCourty. The 7 seed for the AFC playoffs will wind up being fill in the blank, please.
Well, I like the Bengals to win, so I think Sunday is going to matter that much more.
Okay.
I think at the end of it, I think the Broncos are going to be the team that gets in. I do think they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they had them beat when the Chiefs were at full strength and got that field goal blocked. So I look at this: the Chiefs aren't going to play a lot of their guys. And I think with Sean Payton, he finds a way to win this game. But I agree with you, Rich. I think the Bengals are the scariest team because of what Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and those guys offensively have been able to do. The fact that they even have a chance at the playoffs with how bad their defense has been this season gives a ton of credit to them. And I would love to see Burrow get in there. But I honestly don't think it's going to happen this year.
That said, who's your MVP then, Jason McCourty? What do you got?
Josh Allen. And I think if they had the wins, then yeah, he'd probably be at the top of the list. I think he's in the conversation, but I don't think a team with 9 wins, I don't think the MVP should come from their team when you look at what Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Saquon Barkley even have done this season on winning football teams. So I have Josh right now. I think narratives matter as much as people want to remove it and only look at the stats and look at this and that. I think with the Buffalo Bills, when you looked at it this offseason and Stephon Diggs is traded to Houston, and you're saying, well, you know what? This is going to be kind of a reset for the Buffalo Bills. They lost Poyer, they lost Hyde, so many guys on the defensive side of the ball that they're going to try to restructure and figure things out. And the next thing you know, we're looking at a team that had their division wrapped up, it seemed like, the third week of the season with how the rest of those teams have played. And Josh has been an instrumental part, spreading the ball around and doing the things that he's done this year. He's made history as well. So right now, I definitely would say it's Josh Allen.
And so the best team that you have seen with your own 2 eyes, this is week 18 for you too, going around the country, going around the NFL for CBS. And what do you think? Who do you think? Who's the best team that you've seen in person with your own 2 eyes there, Jason?
I would say the Baltimore Ravens. We got them, and they were playing the Giants coming off their bye week, but you just could see a different tenacity. Talking to Lamar Jackson before that game, that was when they had lost to Philly, and he said his mom told him to run more, and you're talking to him about MVPs and records and historically how good this offense is, and you could tell all he cares about is winning. And the way that everybody talks about him, Zay Flowers, I went out to eat with Kyle Van Noy the night before the game, one of their leaders on their team, and he just said Lamar is one of the best leaders he's ever been around. His ability to connect with people and his ability to get guys to want to play for him and go out there and play at their absolute best. So I would say it's the way the Ravens are playing right now. Derrick Henry these last 2 weeks has looked unstoppable. So the Ravens, especially now that their defense after that Bengals game, they had their meeting and figured some things out. The Ravens, to me, are the best team I've been able to see in person.
So now I got to put it all together because you say Josh Allen's your MVP and the Ravens are the best team that you've seen. And again, you haven't maybe seen all of them. Mm-hmm. Which one do you put your marker on? If it's neither of them, you can to go into Arrowhead and end a three-peat opportunity. Jason?
Well, the Ravens were my team to make it to the Super Bowl from the beginning of the season, and I'm sticking with that. I think this is the year for Lamar. I think they'll be encouraged to run a little bit more if they get in that AFC Championship game again. And I think the difference has been, well, as I see Derrick Henry just staring at me, I'd be terrified with that person coming at me. But I look at what they've been able to do with Kyle Hamilton playing in the deep part of the field, or Darius Washington, and then how well Marlon Humphrey has played. I think it's going to be their year.
Okay. So then who was your NFC team for the Super Bowl?
I'm rolling with the Eagles. I think they're going to be the team, as well as the Vikings, Lions, and everybody's playing. I think Philadelphia can come out of it on the NFC side.
Was that your preseason pick as well?
No, preseason I had the Lions, but the injuries, man.
You're off
defensively. I think is the toughest thing to overcome. Like you said earlier, to keep winning at that clip, to have that much pressure on the offense, to have to win and put up that amount of points each and every week, and especially depending upon what happens come Sunday night.
All right. Hey, Jason, watching you do your thing and certainly watching you on ESPN, I'm shaking my head because, I'm just disappointed that, you're not with NFL Network anymore, but I'm also nodding my head because I'm seeing you do what I know you can do, and what you're doing is awesome. You're really terrific.
And I really appreciate it. That means a lot coming from you, Rich.
I appreciate you saying that too, but honestly, you're awesome, and I just love watching you. Just your star keep rising. You deserve it.
Appreciate that. Will do, man.
You got it. That's Jason McCourty right here. Everybody check him out with Andrew Catalon and Tiki Barber and AJ Ross on the call of CBS's coverage of Eagles-Giants in Week 18 right here on the Rich Eisen Show. There goes Jason McCourty to the rest of his January day. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.